as producers managing the rangeland environment, we realize that proper stocking rate is definitely the main variable that we really need to have in balance. But what's really great is there's a lot of tools out in the toolbox is that we can have a proper forage and animal balance, but we can still have some issues show up on the landscape. Large pastures, odd shaped pastures, there's rangeland environments, they still, cattle, just like us, like to either be lazy a little bit or they have those spots that they just really like to go. And so grazing pressure might actually, although we're balanced for an entire area, there are areas within that may see more grazing pressure or more intensity. What's nice is we have a few tools in the toolbox. One of those is actually prescribed burning. We can actually, again, kind of back to one of those ecological drivers, we can use actually fire to manipulate vegetation quality to actually help bring those animals to certain areas. There's a patch burn grazing system that's kind of the design of it, is to move cattle through the system using fire, but it's really attracting them through forage quality. Supplements that cattle receive. Too many times, some of us may be guilty of pulling in the fence, dropping off the salt block or protein block and heading right back out the gate. And I'd like them to stop and really think about that as an opportunity. That's an attractant. Just like you want to, encourage kids or with candy, that can kind of be a treat or something they need. Where's that placed at? And I'd encourage them is maybe if there's this place that the cattle aren't visiting or aren't congregating or grazing, is to maybe use those as tools in the toolbox. Cattle need salt. They're attracted with salt and mineral, and so place that in an area that they're not grazing and see if that doesn't start bringing them in there to get a few more bites on that grass, and that grass in the other portion of the pasture that keeps getting heavily grazed, maybe that's a few more or less bites off of that. And so using that as a distribution tool. Protein, late in the season and or winter, you can actually shape the landscape on where you deliver that. If you place it right inside the gate, that's where the cattle are going to meet you. I know it takes a little extra time, but if you can actually drift those animals across the landscape, maybe feed out on an area that actually does have that bigger or heavier grass, place them there, then maybe they'll meet you there the next time and not at the gate every time. And so you can kind of manipulate grazing distribution with that. Water's a huge one, and so the livestock need to have water, and if the water is, let's say, misplaced, and sometimes water's a challenge because if I'm built ponds, there's only certain locations that surface water might be available. If I water from a stream, I'm not going to be moving that stream around. So knowing where that's at, and if that is an attractant, that may be where producers start thinking about an additional water development. Again, going back to, I really like to place the value of that water on how it can best help the grass, and so in that rangeland community. And so would a water development, if I have a water source in the far south end of a pasture, would it be valuable to then place water at the north end and to be able to draw those animals further up into the pasture? Cattle really like to drift into the predominant wind, and as they drift and graze into that, then they kind of hang out there, and a lot of times it is our southern end of pastures. Depending on pasture shape, they get that heavy grazing pressure. Even have opportunities where maybe we need to restrict water, especially if I have multiple water points, as maybe I take away that attractant. And so really it's kind of, whether it's the forage quality side of it or some environmental factors, what's attracting them there? And if that's causing degradation to my plant community, what are some of those options? So really when we're using all these little kind of tools in the toolbox to manipulate where they are, it's trying to understand what's attracting the animal, and then how can I use that to my benefit, to benefit the rangelands.